What's up, everybody? So today we are going to learn how to drive a manual transmission car. Now, in today's day and age, there's actually quite a few brand new sports cars equipped with a stick shift. They are very fun to drive, and it really opens up how many cars you can drive and what types of cars you can drive. So this is going to be the tutorial video. Maybe you've never even sat in a stick shift car, never driven one, maybe you're planning to buy one or just figuring out how to learn one right now. Today we're going to learn how to drive a manual transmission. So first and foremost, some of the differences between your normal automatic are going to be the pedals. There are 3 pedals down here. The far right one is your gas pedal just like normal. The middle one is your brake pedal like normal. Both of these pedals are going to be operated using your right foot. The new pedal is the one on the far left. That is called your clutch pedal. You'll press that with your left foot and then depress it with your left foot. And then you're going to have a rest over on the left side for your left foot to relax when you're not using the clutch pedal. Now, what does a clutch pedal do? Basically, when you press that clutch in, you're disengaging your engine from your transmission. The transmission in most cars is going to basically sit right here. Your shifter is basically going inside of the transmission. So when you press that clutch pedal, there's a thing called a clutch, which is a bunch of discs and a spring basically holding it together. When you let it out, it's clamped down. When you press the clutch in, it opens up that spring and that clutch plate to where the engine disengages from the transmission, and the transmission can spin freely, and you're in what's called neutral. Now, the shifter right here, this is how you select your gears. To continue an acceleration, you have to go up through the gears. Now, there's going to be a shift pattern on top for the most part that's going to tell you where all the gears are, and basically you're going to follow that pattern to go into every gear. First gear is to the left and forward. Second is going to be straight back from there. And then if you look at the pattern, third is going to be up a little bit into the center, straight forward. Fourth is straight back. Fifth is forward a little bit into the middle, to the right, straight forward. And then 6 is straight back from there. Reverse is going to be in one of the corners. This particular car, it's in the far right. You're going to have to push this one down and then all the way into reverse. Neutral is in the middle. That middle line you see going from left to right, this is neutral. If you can wobble the shifter left and right, that is when you're in neutral, and you can safely take your foot off the clutch and just sit there. So now that we kind of have an idea of what the shifter does, how it works, and this clutch pedal, how do you get moving? So first and foremost, practice driving a manual transmission car in a big empty parking lot. That way there's no one around you, nothing to worry about. So the way you're going to do this, obviously if someone's helping you out, maybe they own the car you're in, have them set up the car. Right now I am in neutral. As you learned, I can wobble this back and forth. I know I'm in neutral. Park and brake is on. None of my feet are touching any of the pedals, so I'm just perfectly sitting here. So what you're going to want to do, I'm going to put my right foot on the brake to hold the car, take the e-brake off now, and depending on if you are on a slant, if I were to take my foot off the brake, I could roll. However, if you're just learning, do this on the flattest parking lot you can find. That way, I'm not rolling at all. But anyways, keep your foot on the brake for now. What you're going to want to do now, your left foot, press the clutch all the way in and engage first gear all the way to the left and forward. So now what you're going to want to do is take your foot off the brake, and again, we're on flat ground, so we're not going to be moving. And from here, I'm just going to slowly take my foot off the clutch, and the car most likely is going to start rolling just a little bit. And if you look at the tachometer as well, when you take your foot off the clutch, it should dip just a little bit. So you got down to about 500 RPM, and then we're back idling around 750. So once again, you're going to take your foot off the brake, slowly depress the clutch pedal, the tach will drop, and you're going to start to roll just a little bit. Now, in a lot of cars, you really don't need to touch the gas pedal to slowly move like that. I would highly recommend when you first get into your car, try that on flat ground, just slowly taking your foot off that clutch pedal. And another good thing to do is just rev the engine a little bit, feel out how that gas pedal reacts to the tachometer. The tach is what you just saw as the gauge cluster, and that number, it's in increments of 1,000, is how quick your engine is spinning. Idling is normally around 750 RPM, and then you want to maintain above 1,000 when you're accelerating. So if we do that once again, clutch in, first gear, I'm going to slowly take my foot off the clutch. However, right in the middle of that clutch is when you're kind of going to feel the most resistance. That's the bite point. That's basically when the clutches are starting to connect and you're now connecting that engine to the transmission. When you start to feel that, just give it just a little bit of gas and continue taking your foot off of that clutch while holding around 1,000 RPM. And before you know it, the clutch is all the way out. You're going 10 miles an hour, just cruising in a parking lot. So once again, we're going to learn how to do that getting up and going. So once again, foot on the brake, clutch in, first gear, And you really just want to master that. Clutch in, and here's your gas pedal, slowly taking off the clutch, and then just giving it a little bit of gas. Now, you don't want to just floor the gas pedal and do a massive burnout. That is for later in your life of learning how to drive stick shift. That is more technique for masters of these. But when you're just learning, it's a very slow maneuver. You want to make slow maneuvers when you're doing this. So clutch off, just give it a little bit of gas to keep the revs around 1,000, and continue slowly taking my foot off, and now we're moving. So with that said, we are now driving around in a parking lot in first gear. Not a bad way to start. However, when you're driving, you now need to shift to continue speeding up. So I'm going like 15 miles an hour. First gear, yeah, you could go like 30 miles an hour in it, but you don't want to do that. The higher the RPMs, the more your engine's spinning, and you don't need to be redlining your car. So how do we make a gear change? Very, very easy. That was the hardest part, getting up and going. Gear change is simple. Clutch in, into that second gear, give it just a tad bit of gas, and slowly make that maneuver once again, taking your foot off the clutch and giving it just a little bit of gas. And then now we're able to go a little bit faster in second gear. So to get into third gear, you guessed it, the exact same thing. Clutch in, over into that third gear, tad bit of gas, slowly let my foot off the clutch. And now we are going faster, and you're gonna do the same thing all the way up the revs. Now, one thing it's worth noting, the more time you have behind the wheel of a stick shift, the quicker you're gonna be able to shift. Of course, right now, you might shift very slow. That is perfectly okay. As you become more of a pro at this, it's gonna become easier and you're gonna be quicker and quicker, so don't let that discourage you. You're gonna be slow in the beginning, perfectly fine. So now what do you do once you're cruising around? How do you slow down or downshift? Well, if you're gonna downshift in a car, you wanna do what's called rev matching. Not too important if you're just learning. An easy way to change gears lower, put your foot in the clutch, put it down a gear, and just slowly take your foot off the clutch. You'll feel it slip just a little bit and catch, and you're good to go. So normal driving when you're just learning, just go ahead and do that. Once you get a little bit more experienced, so we're in fourth gear right now, if I wanna go into third, clutch in, put it into third, give it a little bit more gas than you're used to now, and let your downshift happen. That's called rev matching. And the important thing about rev matching is basically making it to where it's a seamless transition from a high gear into a low gear, because that engine needs to spin faster as you go down in the gears. It's kind of backwards, of course, but if you're downshifting from fourth into third, the revs have to be higher. Basically, you're gonna push the clutch in, just give it a little bit of gas and take your foot back off the clutch. So very simple, clutch in, gas it, take your foot off the clutch. And you'll figure that out as time goes on and how to do it quicker. But once you get more and more experience with this, you can drive it a little bit faster, more input on the throttle, and you will become a pro. It's very simple. The hardest part is just getting up and going. We'll do a rev match in real time now. So fourth gear, if I want to go to third, super simple, very simple. So again, start off slow, and that's how you're gonna do it. All right, another thing you wanna learn is how do you start up on a hill? So right now, I'm going up a hill. This is intimidating. This is the first place I ever stalled when I was first learning how to drive a stick shift. So a good cheat way to do this, so I'm on a hill, if I take my foot off the brake, I start rolling backwards. If there's a car behind me, that is terrifying in traffic. I get it, it is terrifying. The easiest way to do this kind of a good cheat way, take your handbrake, hold this button in, just keep it held in, and let the car sit on the parking brake. So no big deal, that's how you're gonna kind of do it. As you can see, I'm holding myself nicely. So what you're gonna do, clutch in, first gear. Now we're gonna do that cheat mechanism and take my foot off the foot brake. So I am not moving. From here, pretend this isn't even going on. Just slowly take your foot off the clutch, and right as the revs dip, give it a little bit of gas, and then just do that and continue doing your foot maneuver, and you will start on a hill. Very simple. So once again, clutch in, foot on the brake, handbrake holding, foot off the brake now. Slowly let off the clutch until the revs dip, give it some gas, and continue taking your foot off the clutch and giving it gas as you let your hand off the brake. And that is how you start. Now, the way to do this for real, once you kind of master that, is basically just to drive like normal and forget about rolling backwards. You may think you're rolling 5 feet backwards when you take your foot off the brake. You probably only rolled like an inch or so. So it's not as bad as you think. So foot on the clutch, put it in gear. Now I'm gonna keep my foot on the brake, slowly take my foot off the clutch. Right when those revs start to dip, go ahead and take your foot off the brake and on the gas and just continue the process, and you will not roll back even the slightest. I just did that, and for that split second of taking my foot off the brake onto the gas, the car didn't move because the clutch, the bite point, it was holding itself together. It was doing it just enough, slipping the clutch just for that split second to hold the weight of the car. So those are pretty much the basics on how to drive a manual transmission. Now, some things to know: if you stall the car, that is perfectly okay. It's probably going to happen if you're not familiar with using any sort of a manual transmission in any other type of vehicle. Stalling the engine, basically your clutch is in, you're in first gear, and it's when you let off the clutch too quickly with not enough gas. And basically what you're doing, the engine is spinning, that's what it's doing when it's idling. When you're connecting it to the transmission, there is too much weight, too much resistance, and all of that stuff that's not moving, the engine will stop moving once you connect the transmission to it, because obviously the wheels need to spin, all of this needs to push the car. So what does a stall look like? So with my foot on the clutch, let off too quickly, and just like that, we lurch forward a little bit, engine shut off, and now it tells me I need to start it up again. So no big deal, it may happen once or twice. Just be cautious, do things slow. That is the biggest thing. Slow. Just slowly take your foot off the clutch, give it just a little bit of gas, keep the revs a little bit above 1,000, and you will be good to go. So that is the tutorial on how to drive a manual transmission car. These things are a heck of a lot of fun, and they really gives you as the driver so much control. It is a raw experience and truly is unlike any other transmission. If you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content, and seriously, if you can get a manual transmission car, it'll make you a better driver because you are focused on driving rather than all the other distractions out there, and you'll be able to drive some really awesome sports cars and have a lot of fun behind the wheel. So that is it for the video. I will see you guys in the next video.